He thought marrying an overweight alien noblewoman was just a desperate deal for a free spaceship. But the moment the ceremony ended, she locked him inside her war-class vessel and calmly told him he wasn't her husband, he was her property, and the ship he won was a weapon powerful enough to wipe out an entire star system. Captain Rian Locke never imagined his life would come down to a choice between pride and survival. But here he was, sitting across from a holoscreen flickering with bank warnings, medical invoices, and a debt total big enough to fund a small moon. His mother's treatments were costing more each day, and his last combat tour had left him grounded, scarred, and out of options. Pride didn't pay hospital fees. Desperation, however, opened strange doors. And this door was the strangest one of all. Admiral Soren's voice echoed through the dim room. Rian, hear the whole offer before you start swearing. I'm not swearing, Rian said. Yet. A hologram appeared beside the Admiral. A tall, sapphire-skinned alien woman with striking silver hair and a body that didn't just defy gravity. It challenged it to a fistfight. Curves, presence, nobility. Lady Varela Thorne of Valora 9. She's, impressive, he managed. Diplomatically significant, the Admiral corrected. Her house wants a human war hero in the family lineage. They offered marriage, debt clearance, and Rian leaned forward. And the ship, the Admiral sighed. Yes, a fully registered, Valorian-engineered star vessel. The Starbreaker. For a second, Rian forgot to breathe. That ship was a legend. Fast enough to outrun raiders. Durable enough to survive asteroid storms. And expensive enough to buy a new identity on any world. Soren continued. You sign the marriage contract, attend a brief ceremony, stay with her for 1 week for diplomatic protocol. Then you're done. Debt cleared. Ship yours. Rian rubbed his temples. Why me? There are hundreds of pilots. Because you're skilled, Soren said. Because you're unattached. And because House Thorne asked for someone with grit. He hesitated. Frankly, you're the only one willing to do something this insane. Rian laughed bitterly. I didn't know desperate idiot was a diplomatic requirement. It is now. He stared again at Varela's image. She looked elegant, confident, and absolutely capable of snapping a human in half without breaking a sweat. He swallowed. 1 week, he confirmed. 1 week. And she doesn't expect romance? The Admiral's silence was not encouraging. Rian exhaled sharply. He thought of his mother, of his empty bank account, of the life slipping between his fingers. Fine, he said. Set it up. And just like that, he sealed the deal that would change the fate of 2 species and ruin any chance he had of a normal life ever again. The ceremony aboard the Valorian diplomatic cruiser was faster than Rian expected. No flowers, no music, no vows he understood. Just a sequence of glowing symbols, a few words he hoped weren't legally binding forever, and a polite applause from a room of tall, blue-skinned aristocrats who looked like they were judging his posture. Lady Varela Thorne, his new bride, stood beside him with the composure of someone who had married strangers before. Her expression was unreadable but not unkind, just studying him, as if he were a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit anywhere on the table. Captain Locke, she said softly, her voice warm but carrying the weight of command. Thank you for honoring our agreement. Thanks for not crushing my hand during the ring exchange, he muttered, earning the faintest flicker of amusement from her. A Valorian attendant stepped forward and gestured toward a corridor shimmering with soft blue lights. Lady Thorne, the marital chamber is prepared. Rian choked on nothing. The what now? It's a formality, Varela said, gesturing for him to follow. We stay there for the initial bonding period. 1 week, right? 1 week. Totally normal. Happens all the time. He tried to laugh. It sounded like a dying air filter. They entered a luxurious suite, high ceilings, golden accents, an expansive star window. Rian barely had time to appreciate the craftsmanship before the door slid shut behind them with a heavy metallic thud. Then came the second thud, followed by a deep locking hiss. Rian's eyebrows shot up. Did that sound like freedom dying? It was only the security seal, Varela said calmly. Standard protocol. He walked to the door panel, tapped it, read, access denied, tapped again, redder. The door's locked, he said. Yes. No, I mean locked. Yes, she repeated, as if he were pointing out gravity. Why? She clasped her hands in front of her, expression diplomatic but firm. Because Valorian marital law requires the couple to remain together for the first cycle. To ensure compatibility. There is no exit until the week ends. Rian blinked at her. Once, twice. You trapped me in a honeymoon cage? A suite, she corrected. A cage with better furniture. A tiny smile touched her lips. You're not a prisoner, Captain Locke. You're my husband. That's not reassuring. He stepped back, heart pounding. Not from fear, but from the realization flooding in. The ship wasn't the only thing he just signed away 7 days for. He had underestimated Varela Thorne. And that mistake was only just beginning to show its consequences. For the first few hours, Rian tried pretending he wasn't locked in a luxury prison. He paced. He inspected vents. He tried to hack the door using a fork, which even he admitted was a low point. Varela sat on a cushioned platform, watching him with the patience of a teacher observing a hyperactive student burn out his energy. You're wasting effort, she finally said. I'm brainstorming. You're panicking. He gestured wildly. Of course I'm panicking. I've been married for 3 hours and I've already lost my freedom. Not true, she replied. You are free to walk anywhere inside the suite. Oh, perfect. It's a spacious prison. Her lips twitched. He suspected that was Valorian for a laugh. Eventually he sat opposite her, exhausted enough to think straight. She poured him a glass of shimmering blue liquid. It smelled like mint and electricity. What is this? He asked. A calming beverage. He sniffed again. Calming or paralyzing? Calming, she said, amused. If I wanted you paralyzed, you would not be asking questions. He blinked. Okay. That was both comforting and terrifying. Varela tilted her head. You assume the worst of me. You locked me in a room on our wedding night. That is tradition, she said. Not hostility. He didn't respond. For a moment, the room felt too quiet, too intimate. She watched him with an unexpected gentleness. You gave up everything to save your mother, she said softly. That was not the act of a coward. His throat tightened. He hadn't mentioned his mother. You read my file. I wanted to understand the man I was joining my life to. The sincerity in her voice disarmed him more than any force field could. He finally looked at her, not as his captor, but as someone also trapped in expectations she didn't choose. She wasn't cruel, just bound by tradition and politics older than humanity. Before he could reply, the lights flickered. A sharp alarm blared through the suite. Red emergency symbols pulsed across the ceiling. Varela stood instantly, all warmth replaced by sharp focus. Raiders, she said. How do you know? She pointed to the shifting symbols. That code pattern is Valorian for hostile interception. They've found us. Rian's heart slammed. Locked in a honeymoon suite while enemies approached? Worse timing didn't exist. Open the door, he said. I can't. Then override it. She met his eyes, tension crackling. Rian. Someone disabled the manual release from the outside. His stomach dropped. They weren't locked in anymore. They were trapped. The walls trembled as the ship jolted, once, then again harder. Rian grabbed the nearest support railing just as the gravity flickered. Outside the suite's star window, streaks of hostile fire flashed across the void like red-hot lashes. Tell me those are warning shots, he said. They are not, Varela replied, fingers flying across a concealed control panel embedded in the wall. A holographic display unfolded, a tactical map of the cruiser. 3 hostile icons were closing in fast. Draxian raiders, she muttered. I knew they were bold, but this, her jaw tightened. This is a direct attempt on my life. Rian's pulse spiked. Why would raiders target a diplomat? She didn't answer. Varela, he said, stepping closer. What aren't you telling me? Before she could respond, a shrill chime erupted from the display. A flashing red marker pulsed inside the ship. Inside, not outside. Rian frowned. What's that? Unauthorized access, she whispered. Someone is tampering with the Starbreaker's internal seals. He froze. You mean someone on this ship is trying to let the raiders in? Her silence said everything. A traitor. The room lurched again as hostile boarding clamps struck the hull. Rian slammed his palm against the sealed door. We need to get to the bridge. We can't, she said. They've isolated this entire wing. Then override it. I'm trying. Her fingers danced over alien glyphs. Nothing happened. Rian paced behind her, adrenaline hammering in his veins. Every instinct screamed at him to fight, to act, to do something. Sitting still felt like dying slowly. Rian, Varela said, voice low. Listen. He froze at the seriousness in her tone. There is a reason House Drax wants me dead. She glanced at the tactical screen where the raiders pressed closer. The Starbreaker isn't just a ship. He stared. What does that mean? She swallowed. My bloodline has the genetic key to activate a weapon inside this vessel. A weapon that could shift the balance of the war. A weapon others would kill to control. He let that sink in. So when they said you were the key, they meant it literally. She nodded. And you dragged me into this because, why? You needed a husband. I needed a partner, she corrected, meeting his eyes. The weapon requires 2 pilots, bound, synced. A Valorian and a human. Rian exhaled slowly. So I wasn't picked for my resume. No, she said softly. You were picked because you're capable of doing what others won't. The ship shook violently, borders breaching the outer hull. Rian set his jaw. Then let's do what others won't. First, she said, we break out of this room. He smirked despite the danger. Finally, a plan I can work with. The next blast rocked the suite so violently that one of the ceiling lights shattered. Varela shielded her face. Rian pulled her out of the glass shower just in time. The ship groaned like a wounded beast. Hull stress alarms screaming through every wall. They're breaching the second layer, Varela warned. Once they reach the inner corridor, they'll head straight for the core. And that's where your apocalypse trigger is, Rian said. Great. She shot him a look. I never said it was apocalyptic. You didn't have to. Look at the way everyone's trying to kill you. Her silence confirmed he wasn't wrong. Before dread could settle, she yanked off a decorative wall panel, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft. This leads to the AUX corridor, she said. We can reach the armory from there. Rian stared at the tiny opening. You're kidding. I am not. You think I can fit through that? I know I cannot, she said bluntly. But you can. He blinked. So I crawl alone, unarmed, into a corridor full of traitors and raiders? Yes. Wonderful. I love marriage. Despite the danger, she almost smiled. Rian squeezed inside, metal scraping his shoulders. The shaft was cramped, claustrophobic, and smelled faintly like coolant and despair. He crawled fast, emerging several minutes later into a dim corridor flickering between red and white emergency lights. Shadows moved, footsteps, 2 sets, closing in. He ducked behind a column, heart slamming. 2 armored raiders passed, weapons drawn, muttering in guttural Draxian dialect. They were heading toward the sealed core door. Too close, he thought. Rian waited until they turned a corner, then sprinted down the hall to the armory hatch. It opened with Varela's override code. Inside, he grabbed the first weapon that looked vaguely non-explosive and sprinted back toward the suite's direction. He reached the core intersection just in time to see Varela forcing the manual override of the main suite door from the other side. Her gown was torn, her hair loose, her breathing sharp, but she was alive. You made it, she said, relief softening her eyes. Yeah, he replied. Figured I'd fight for my wife instead of filing for annulment. Raider shouts echoed behind them. No time for explanations. They ran together toward the core. The final chamber pulsed with blinding blue light. A surge of energy shot through the floor like a heartbeat. "This is it," Varela said. "Once we enter the sync cradle, the weapon stabilizes. But if the raiders fire while we're inside," Rian stepped forward. "Then we trust each other not to die today." Her eyes widened, not at the danger, but at the unshakable certainty in his voice. They stepped into the cradle. Energy wrapped around them, reading their pulse, their breath, their fear, their resolve. For one breathless moment, their minds aligned, his courage, her determination, his instincts, her precision. The weapon responded. A burst of light exploded outward, rippling through the ship, disabling every hostile system within kilometers. Raiders collapsed unconscious. The trader's signals went dark. Silence fell. The Starbreaker was safe. Varela leaned against him, exhausted but smiling. A real smile this time. "You chose to stay," she whispered. Rian gently brushed a shard of glass from her hair. "Guess being trapped with you wasn't the worst thing that ever happened to me." She laughed, breathless and warm. And for the first time since the arrangement began, their future wasn't forced. It was chosen. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to follow for more human versus universe tales where desperation meets destiny. Until the next journey, stay curious, stay brave, and never underestimate the power of an unexpected alliance.